So my name is again Anna Ivasiuk, and I work for the Agency for Community Development, Împreună. Împreună means together in English. We're basically an organization which defends the social inclusion of the Roma people in Romania. Because I have to keep it very, very short, I'm going to start by saying that the presentation that I'm going to do today is not necessarily exactly the same idea that we presented last year in Tech Camp, because unfortunately there's been no follow-up, until now. So we had to sort of go on by ourselves and sort of try to adapt the original idea, which was much more big scale, to something that we think is more doable. And the first idea we started from is that if we want to succeed together, that's going to start by bringing people together. And who exactly are we going to bring together? We're going to bring together the ones who have it and the ones who don't. I'm not sure whether this is okay at the back, if you can read it or not. Right. So the ones who have it, I just said generally it, because it can be money, it can be technology, it can be know-how, it can be a lot of things. And basically we're thinking of bringing together institutions who have, infrastructure and who have power, supposedly. We want to bring entrepreneurs and businesses who have ideas and money. We have to bring donors and also NGOs who have this wish to change things, and to bring all these people together with the ones who don't necessarily have it. And by that we mean, obviously, in the first place the Roma, but not necessarily only the Roma. And just a little bit to go deeper into the analysis, where there are problems, and there are a lot of problems, For instance, there are no data on the priority needs of the Roma. And obviously, when you don't have data, you don't know what to do. That leads to the fact that the real issues are not solved, and that leads to the fact that when resources are allocated to doing things, if you don't do the right things, you waste resources. Another problem is the low capacity of the state, but also of civil society organizations to take action. So, because of the lack of funding and the scarce resources, there is little action. The impact of the action is not sustainable because there is a weak cooperation between the state and civil society organizations. So basically, these are the problems that we wanted to talk about and for which we found solutions, or what we think could be possible solutions. First thing, to tackle the issue of not having data on the Roma, we thought, okay, we need to have research on the priority needs of the Roma at the grassroots level. And I'm happy to say that this year we've conducted a big-scale research operation. We've collected data, but it was on representative samples at national level. Sampling means you have, points where you know what the situation looks like, and you can infer from there, you can generalize. Okay? The other thing we thought of doing was, once we have this data, it would be a great idea to map the data and to have it visually clear for everybody, and to share it with everyone so that every interested party, whether it's an institution or an NGO, can actually take advantage of the fact that we put data at their disposal. To tackle the low capacity and the weak cooperation, we were thinking of a platform, a web-based platform in which possible partners could track each other based on mutual interest, based on capacity, based on areas of intervention, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. So basically we think that knowing what needs to be done, what can be done, is to meet the needs of the Roma. So, every Roma community has its own particularities, because not all the Roma communities are the same. Sometimes you need a road, sometimes you need infrastructure, sometimes you need a better school, sometimes you need jobs. So the needs of Roma communities are different, and we need to know them to act locally in a very efficient way. And knowing what can be done is obviously the first step in a long journey. So how we were thinking of doing this? First of all, by collecting data, updating data. And this is something, if need be, we can get back to, because it's a little bit more complex than this. Mapping the data, and then trying to build capacities to put together stakeholders in order to take appropriate action at the grassroots level. Last year, our proposal was on a large scale. Like I mentioned before, we were being very ambitious about it, and we thought, okay, let's map all the Roma communities everywhere in Romania, which is obviously going to cost a lot of resources and a lot of time, and then you have the problem of sustainability because you have to update the data all the time. So basically, it's somewhere that you need to put a lot of resources into. And we would like to pilot this idea and see how it works on a smaller scale. At a regional level, at county level, we thought of having a county close to Bucharest where we can go very fast and we can intervene if need be. And we thought of the county Călăraș, which has a lot of Roma communities. It's right in the southeast of Bucharest. And we know because we've worked there before. What is needed in order to really implement this idea that we have? We need a web platform. Obviously something, you know, the technical instrument that would bring people together, show the data, have a little search engine, you know, browser where you can search for problems or opportunities. We need the instruments to update the data, because what we were thinking at the beginning was to have local level NGOs or county level NGOs who would update the data, you know, periodically. Then we need to learn to use mapping technologies, obviously, and last year TechCamp gave us a great opportunity to learn how to use mapping software such as Toolbox. And I understood that Eric Anderson from Development Seed was very, very keen to help us and assist us from there, which is really something that we want to count on. And then obviously we need the resources to start this data collection process and the analysis of the data. And basically that's a little bit the idea in a nutshell. Because I got the sign that I need to stop soon. I'm just going to leave it at that. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I just had one quick question. What kind of data are we talking about? You said, you know, Roma data, but what kind of data exactly? If you can be a little bit more specific, yes, that'll be great.
We're talking about the social inclusion indicators. So basically there are four major fields of intervention in social inclusion. And these are housing, employment, education, and health. And basically we're thinking of things like the number of Roma students, of Roma children who drop out of school, the number of single mother families, the number of families in which everybody's unemployed, the number of, you know, the number of people, of children who aren't vaccinated. So there are quite a lot of indicators. For instance, for this year's data collection, we've gathered data in about 198 indicators. And in addition to these four fields about which everybody is talking, there are other fields such as migration, because it's interesting and it's important to know where people leave from and when do they come back, do they bring money back, and you know, things like that. There's also what we broadly call public participation, and there's also the interethnic relations. So basically these are the fields in which we find specific things to measure.
And is this data provided by the government of Romania?
No.
Okay, so you have...
Thank you for this question, actually. Yeah. We do this because the state doesn't,
right,
you know, for two reasons. One, they don't really, three reasons, if I may be blunt. One, there is no political will, not really. When it comes to the Roma, there's a lot of racism. So, you know, politicians who show that they want to do something for Roma get sanctioned by less votes, generally, very broadly speaking. Second of all, the state doesn't really have the capacity to do a great-scale data collection process. And third of all, a lot of public institutions are actually afraid of collecting data on ethnic, ethnic background. The law in Romania says that you can collect data about ethnicity, religion, and so on and so forth, as long as it stays anonymous and you can't trace the questionnaire back to the person. Obviously, when you do data collection for sociological and statistic purposes, you don't ask for people's names, so you can. But state institutions are like very rigid on this thing, and they're not very keen on it. So we do what they wish they could do, but can't.